Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Now this is part 2 of History of Western Philosophy. In part 1 we discussed ancient philosophy. Now in this part I'll be discussing medieval philosophy. Um, as we said last time, the history of Western philosophy is divided into two periods. The first one is the ancient period from 600 BC until 400 AD, then the medieval period from 400 AD until the 1600s, and the modern period from the 1600s until the present. So in this video, I'm only going to be discussing the medieval period. Now, when we talk about medieval philosophy, or the word medieval itself actually refers to the Middle Ages. And during the Middle Ages, Western philosophy developed more as a part of Christian theology than as an independent branch of inquiry. So, starting from the medieval period here, philosophy and theology more or less became intertwined. The philosophy of Greece and Rome survived only in its influence on religious thoughts. So any ideas that were discussed in ancient philosophy was made use of in the medieval philosophy only if it connects to religion, if it has any connection with religious thought. The major figure of the Middle Ages and one of its greatest philosophers is St. Augustine. And during the Middle Ages, Western philosophy developed, as I said, more as a part of Christian theology, and the teachings of St. Augustine were more or less, focused only on Christianity and on religious teachings. And St. Augustine is actually, as I said, one of the major philosophers of that specific period. In his book, The City of God, which was published in the early 1400s, he explained that human history is a conflict between faithful Christians living in the city of God and pagans or heretics living in the city of the world. People of the city of God will gain eternal salvation, but the people in the city of the world will receive eternal punishment. So it's this, major theme or idea of, good people versus bad people, or, Satan versus angels. So, people, according to St. Augustine, are either people of God living in the city of God, or, they are, bad people more or less living in the city of the world. People of the city of God are going to live happily even after their death, right? It's eternal salvation. People in the city of the world will be punished eternally as well. His teachings weakened the belief in the pagan religion of Rome and helped further the spread of Christianity. The other school, or the important school during the medieval period, is the school of scholasticism, which started in the 1100s until the 1400s. Uh, a very long time, actually, around 300 years. And scholasticism refers to the method of philosophic investigation used by teachers of philosophy and theology in the newly developing universities of Western Europe. So teachers were actually referred to as scholastics. The scholastic method consisted in precise analysis of concepts with subtle distinctions between different senses of these concepts. And they actually used deductive reasoning to provide solutions to any problems. The teachings of this school were basically generated by the translation of Aristotle's works in Latin, and these words presented medieval thinkers with the problem of reconciling Aristotle's great body of philosophic thought with the Bible and the Christian doctrines. One of the most famous scholastics was St. Thomas Aquinas, whose philosophy combined Aristotle's thought with theology, with religion, and it eventually became the official philosophy of the Roman Catholic Church. When I meet you tomorrow, this week, we will be talking about the Roman Catholic Church in great detail before we start, dealing with 17th century. The great contribution of the scholastics to philosophy included major development of the philosophy of language, specifically in how features of language can affect our understanding of the world. So, for instance, in concepts like independence or freedom. How do you understand these concepts? And therefore, the way you understand these concepts will have an enormous effect on how you live your life, and therefore on how the society itself, is going to function. The scholastics also emphasized the importance of logic to philosophic inquiry. We already talked about the idea of deductive reasoning, and therefore they focused, a lot on logic in order to arrive to certain truth. Thus, scholasticism's primary goal was to reconcile faith and reason, to demonstrate that what was accepted on faith was in harmony with what could be learned by reason. So, a connection here between logic and faith, So, the way through which you understand faith, through which you understand God, is going to depend on certain philosophic premises, on reason, on logic itself, right? Which is more or less a new approach to understanding faith and religion. Up until the Renaissance, scholasticism became the instructional mode of the universities. I will be preparing another video on modern philosophy, and I'll be sending it to you soon. Thank you very much.